Da da da! Welcome to Amuls Vision, whatever you want to call me. I am your host, Coach Amul P, right here at Amuls Vision, and we are going to kick off our premiere show tonight. Yes, this is our first show. It is a live broadcast, so anything can happen, anything can go. But we do have a celebrity guest tonight, so we are going to introduce you to Kash Jackson. Ran for governor. There were some things that happened. He was in the military, and he's been denied his right to parenting time. And the case goes deeper, but we're going to talk to Kash later on tonight about that in about 25-30 minutes. To get this show started, I do have to go over some disclaimers. So we're going to give some time to people to come in the room. I'm going to try to calm down. I get really passionate when we talk about our children and we talk about family courts. But each and every Wednesday night right here on Amuls Vision, we're going to have a live show. That's right. It's going to be hosted by me, Coach Amul P, as well as Richard Cross. Richard Cross is an advocate as well for transparency in the courts. So I would like for you guys to meet Richard Cross, as he'll be co-hosting our show on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Again, this is our first broadcast. This is our first show. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we're going to be running it and how we're going to do this. So let me go over some disclaimers. Each and every week, as I give you guys some information, tips, and ways that you guys can stand strong in family court, understand parental alienation, understand narcissism, things that affect family court issues. I would like to spend time with you guys each week as well to teach you guys a little bit about what to expect when you guys go to family court, what to expect when you guys go to mediation. So, welcome to Amuls Vision. I'm going to give y'all a round of applause. Wait, like I said, this is our first show. So, it's going to take some time to build up and understand that we are going to make this a weekly broadcast each and every week for you guys. So, each and every week, I will come out here and I'm going to give you guys some great life tips. I am a life coach, a family coach, and I coach people when it comes to family courts. What can I do for you? What I can do for you, and a lot of times, in a lot of places, I will be able to help you, direct you to an attorney if that's what you need in your city or your state. I'll be able to help you guys through your family court case. I cannot offer legal advice. So let's stop right there for a minute. Let's talk about this. When I say I can't offer legal advice, I can give you my opinion. You can take it for what it's worth. I definitely have experience inside that courtroom. I definitely have a lot of friends that are attorneys. I have a lot of friends that are politicians. Some of you may know me from the TFRM. I was a host, on-air personality at TFRM. We have a good standing relationship, and I still support them. Here on Amuls Vision or Amuls Vision, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to let you guys know that I support both parents. I support mothers, I support fathers. But most of all, I support the collateral damage that's done through family court, which are grandparents, sisters, brothers, siblings, mothers, fathers, there's stepbrothers, stepsisters. There's so many more people that are affected by these problems that happen with family court, and they usually arise out of what we call a false allegation. So a false allegation will lead to a temporary order, right? So the false allegation is the first thing they need to take you to court. It's a complaint, a civil complaint. So let me stop right there again. The disclaimer is, at Amuls Vision, we cannot give you legal advice. So anything that I say, please take it as a professional opinion. It is not a legal opinion. It is not legal advice. I can't do that, and we can't do that. So if you have a question, we will try to answer it right here in the bottom. There'll be a group of moderators each week. I don't know how many moderators we're going to have today because we did this on the fly. We're lucky to have Kash Jackson coming on the show later on tonight, so we decided, let's just go ahead and run our first broadcast. Good, bad, whatever. The purpose is that we love you, we love your children, and we love your families. We are aiming to end parental alienation, or hopefully we'll get some family court reform and make it a crime to alienate a parent. A loving parent should never be alienated. It is not in the best interest of the children. For one parent to think that the other parent is less, that'll never be in the best interest of the child. Now, you know, the courts are about in God we trust. So if there was a parent that had something that was minor or something that happened 15 years ago, it shouldn't be held against them now. But you're going to learn, if you're facing this family court battle, what's going to happen is your whole life is opened up. And it's opened up to a judge, an attorney, and almost the rest of the world. And you'll be so limited to what you can say, what you can do. And in that battle, you may lose a lot of stuff. What I don't want you to lose is yourself. This is why I started Amuls Vision. There's a group that helped me start it, but I want you guys to know that the vision was I wanted to bring awareness to parental alienation. I wanted to make change. And we got a group of people that are with us to stand with us. So tonight, in a little bit, we're going to have Kash Jackson come on. So you guys know, no legal advice. Disclaimer made. I'm not a doctor, so I can't give medical advice. So please take in consideration if we give you any advice, it's not medical advice either. Now, I don't know if Richard is on here, but Richard Cross will be co-hosting our show weekly on Wednesday night, and I'd love to introduce you to him if he's available tonight, or if he's going to be on there Wednesday with us. I want you guys to meet him, get to know him. He is a crusader for children's rights, and he is working tirelessly around the clock, and not just to expose judges, more to bring awareness to judges that are making bad decisions, because just frankly, we can't have them back in office. We can't have these people holding seats that are ruling with a bias. And what I mean by bias, I don't want to just say woman or man, whatever it is. If they have a bias, they shouldn't be in a seat to make a judgment. Now, let me say something else about family court. Family court seems to be like anything and everything you say can and will be used against you in a family court of law. It's like being guilty and then having to prove your innocence. So let's go in a little depth with that. Let's understand that. There is a group called Pro Se Dads. It's a great resource for you fathers that want to understand if you're litigating this yourself. If you're litigating this through an attorney, you're probably going to see about $2,500 to $4,500 on your retainer fee. This is just what I hear and see. And this is going to take you to temporary order, and it may take you to mediation. Mediation fails a lot because mediation isn't really designed to work. It's actually just a room, and the other party's in another room, and the attorney's going to take 30 minutes to go back and forth from room to room, right? They're going to go 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, and they're going to drag it out, and they're going to charge you a lot of money, and more than likely, it's probably not going to work out. So we'll talk about that on one of our episodes. We'll have an episode called Mediation. We'll have an episode called The Temporary Hearing. And we're definitely going to have a series on the final orders. So final hearings and final orders. Why are we going to have such a long show on that? It's going to be because I don't believe that final orders are ever final. The thing is, when the alienator or alienating parent doesn't get what they want, they're going to use the court as an instrument to get what they want. So whether it's break you down financially, whether it's break you down emotionally, whether it's break you down physically, or your character, it's all going to be under attack. Here at Amuls Vision, we want to prepare you. We want you to know how to eat right. We want you to know how to work. We want you to know how to be able to balance your life, because once family court is in there, it's not going to go away for a long time. And I talk to hundreds of parents a day, and I have a lot of experience that I want to share with you guys. I want to share with you guys what I've heard from the women. I want to share with you what I've heard from the men. I want to share with you some success stories. Now, when you're going through family court, you're going to have to understand you're not alone. There's thousands and millions of fathers and mothers that are going through it with you, so you're not alone. Now, we're going to give the viewers that are coming in the room a little time to join us. So we're going to stay live, and we're going to, about 3 or 4 minutes, we're going to stick it out together as we wait for Kash Jackson and Richard to come on here, and they're going to be helping us throughout the night, and we're going to get a live interview with Kash Jackson. Let me see, in about 14 or 15 minutes. So y'all don't want to go nowhere. Y'all want to stick around right here at Amuls Vision. We're going to be doing this live show. Like I said, tonight is Sunday night, but we're going to be doing this live show on Wednesday nights. When is it? Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it may be later if you're on the West Coast, or before, earlier, whatever it is. Check your time zones. As far as we're concerned, we're going to be here at 9 p.m. Wednesdays Eastern Standard Time. All right. So let me introduce myself first. First of all, round of applause for you guys for joining Amuls Vision tonight. Round of applause again. I'm going to give you guys just a little background on who I am. Who is Amul? Amul is a former DJ for Convict Music, and I was a touring DJ with a lot of celebrities. So I did travel the world and I made a name for myself. I went on a few reality TV shows. Never knew nothing about the family court system until I got dragged into it. So the background of me is I've been in broadcast and communications for 11 years before I had to leave them and go ahead and fight for my kid. When I started fighting for my kid, being a DJ wasn't a feasible life, right? So I changed my career. I own a body shop now, and I work in a small area. I don't travel much because I don't want to lose my child or be away from my child. So for every opportunity I get to spend with them, I do. Now, you guys are going to be facing a financial burden. We're gonna show you, not just throw you bones, but we're gonna show you how you're gonna navigate the family court system. You're gonna understand your rights, and you're gonna understand that you're not alone. So, thank you. Richard is in the down here in the comments. So, Richard, thank you so much for joining us. He's gonna be our professional moderator at Amuls Vision. He's at Amuls Vision. He's part of Team Amuls Vision. So he'll be able to answer questions and give you guys some directions. And if you have any questions and you need somebody to talk to, we have support. Our inbox is open 24/7. Somebody will talk to you. So in just a minute, I'm going to bring Kash Jackson in here, and we're going to talk about some serious topics. And let me see. Kash, whenever you're ready, you just let me know, and I'm going to bring you in here because I definitely want to bring you in here. And this is the premiere show of Amuls Vision. So let me check and see if Kash is almost ready, okay? Give me just a minute. But welcome, guys, to Amuls Vision Live. We're going to be here each and every Wednesday night. We're going to be giving away stuff. We're going to help you guys out. We're going to support you. We don't want you to be alone. We don't want you to feel alone. You're not alone. So we're going to bring Kash Jackson in here, and we're going to have an amazing show right now. Let's do it. And y'all going to have to tell me if y'all can hear me, okay? So let me know if y'all can hear me. So give me just a minute. And the screen's going to change, so I need y'all to let me know if y'all can see me, okay? And Richard, if you can tell me if you can hear me. Welcome.
What's up, buddy?
Kash, can you hear me?
I got you, man. What you doing?
All right, great. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Kash. Just amazing to talk to you all the time. Let me ask the audience, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? And can y'all hear Kash?
I hope so. I'm way out in the country.
All right, great. So they say it looks good, sounds good. I'm going to introduce you just a little bit. Kash Jackson is I'm going to say American hero. He served in our military. He came here, and what I'm going to describe it as an injustice and betrayal of our country, our Constitution, and our court system. So let's talk to Kash. Kash, can you introduce yourself to the people that have never met you? This has been going on for a long time. You have been going through this for a long time.
10 years. Yeah, 10 years. One decade of my life, no small number. I'm 45 years old. So we're talking 20% of my life now has been spent involved in the throes of family court. And for those that don't know, I'm a retired military veteran that kind of became a political activist as it pertained to parental rights, right? This was pre-COVID.
Right.
So we're talking back, I initially kind of began my court process back in 2014 while I was still active duty military. And, man, it took me down a road that I never expected.
Let me ask you a question, Kash. So what year did you enlist in the military? And how old were you?
I was 17 years old. That was 1996.
17 years old. And how long were you in the military active, serving our country?
20 years. Yeah, I retired at 37.
And 20 years you was in the military, and you had come home. And so how many children do you have? And where did it start that you actually ended up in family court? Because we would think that you are serving our country. Was you married? And how did you end up in family court? Being a person who's putting his life on the line for our freedom, how did you end up fighting for your children's rights to access their father?
Well, kind of like so many others, number one, marriage is hard to begin with. I think anybody who's been married could attest to that. And those difficulties are exacerbated in military service. And, when you throw in, each person's own unhealed traumas, I'm Gen X. We didn't necessarily look at mental health the same way that they do now. I mean, we looked at mental health back then with, drink some whiskey and take an ibuprofen and, put some ice on it.
Right.
You're going to be okay, And so, I think in that nature, that cultural social difference in how people like in our age category, um, deal with the transgressions that we experience in family
Right.
court. Well, let's just say we're very outspoken. I think Gen Xers are exponentially outspoken, and oftentimes we're crude in our language because, well, I mean, we grew up on Lethal Weapon and Hooters. I mean, that's just, we didn't choose that society to get
Right.
raised in. That's just when we were born, and that's when we were raised, and
And being a hero and serving our military, you didn't just come back. You actually started to run for a political seat, and if I'm not mistaken, it's a governor's seat. So what year did you run? And before we talk about how these tables turn, we want to know the rise of Cash Jackson, because you're not just an average man. You're just not an average father. You're an American hero who has been dealt an injustice by a court system that is based off feelings and discretion, which we're going to talk about that tonight. But you ran for a seat, and can you tell us a little bit about how this came about?
Yeah, you have to forgive me for
No,
moving.
it's okay.
So
We're
you
blessed to
asked,
have you on.
yeah,
And
you
thank you,
asked.
Anthony, down here from Pro State Dads. We're going to talk to him in a couple weeks, but you guys need resources. Anthony's here from Pro State Dads. But tell us about this political seat and how it came about. And oh, wow.
So you asked the question. So up here in my man cave, this is a framed photograph of me in the 2018 gubernatorial debate against this is the current governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. So he was, as you can see, he was my former political opponent.
Right.
That was the governor of Illinois whenever I retired from the military, and I retired out of the military in 2016 in Illinois. So I've got a letter from Governor Bruce Rauner, that I got at my military retirement, thanking me for my military service and all the sacrifices that I made. And, as it were, and we'll probably get into this in a little bit, but I've got a letter from this guy too. It's called a governor's warrant. We'll go on that a little bit later if you want.
So that was 2018, is that right?
That's correct. So I got out of the military 2016. And I decided I was kind of fed up with both the Republican and the Democratic parties. I went into the Libertarian Party, decided, you know what, this issue's got to be brought to a larger stage. There needs to be more people talking about it. It needs to be more politicians talking about it. We could get more justice for us and our family sooner if more people would just campaign and talk about these issues. And frankly, I thought that, the issue of parental rights was something that is so sacred that it should definitely jump, in my mind, to the top of the priority list as it pertains to domestic policy. And I know a lot of people don't feel that way, but I do. I think that protecting America's future, which is our children, should be an American top priority. And for me, that's what drew me into politics. Is I'm like, no, I mean, I'm not going to allow for this stuff to stand. So I thought being in politics and at least getting on a stage, I could at least get a platform to talk about.
So let me ask you a question. What year was the first year that you got a letter from a family court saying, hey, you're in this, whether you like it or not?
Oh,
that
would have been July 2014, whenever I got served with my first of 3 emergency orders of protection. So I'm quite familiar with the silver bullets and how those work. And that is essentially what ended my military career, drew it to an end sooner than what I had desired. I did retire honorably. There was never any criminal charges or convictions. As a matter of fact, the most serious allegations she made on the first emergency order of protection was thrown out a short 3 weeks later, but it didn't matter. The damage is done.
So for the people who are just joining us or they have never been in this, can you explain a little bit just what is a silver bullet?
A silver bullet's a strategic tactic that's employed by attorneys, and unfortunately, it's well known too within the domestic violence, what I'm going to call an industry, because it is an industry that preys upon people that are harmed.
Right.
But they are promoters of this, as are family law attorneys, and it's an over abuse tactic which is utilized in an attorney early on in litigation to get their client into a position for their most favorable outcome, which typically involves, unfortunately, a mom getting full custody, a dad getting every other weekend.
Let me ask you a question. When there's some kind of civil action, restraining order, we call the silver bullet here, are you automatically guilty of a crime, or are you actually not guilty yet and you didn't have a chance to go to court? Which one is it? Like, it's confusing to us.
It's confusing to a lot of people, and it was confusing to me at first as well. No, so an emergency order of protection, something that people need to know about this is that typically these are handed out from a judge in what's known as an ex parte hearing. That means you, the accused, will not be present when accusations are made
Oh, wow.
against you. So you'll receive, the judge typically will do what they normally do, which is fail to the safe side.
Right.
And for them, failing to the safe side is also entails, well, we don't care how much of your life we disrupt and or ruin, how much of your reputation we
So,
libel and slander. We're going to put this into place anyway.
so Mother of the Year was, well, actually, we're not disparaging nobody on the show, but Mother of the Year goes and gets this protective order with some false allegations, right? And then what is your schedule with your children, and how often did you get to see them when all this started happening?
Well, at the time, I'd already been separated from my children for more than 2 years, and I'm sorry, I had just rolled over 2 years. And whenever I entered into the court process, because I was stationed in Washington State, which was, effectively one of my last duty stations. And I'd been transferred from Illinois, where I was a recruit division commander,
Right.
which is a drill instructor for the Navy. So I pushed boots in the United States Navy there for a few years. And whenever the Navy sent me on orders back to Washington State, the mother of my children elected to remain in the state of Illinois with our 2 minor children, and there was nothing I could do about it.
So let's say they mischaracterized you. I'm going to say they mischaracterized who you are, misrepresented facts, in effort to gain this protective order. And in so of gaining this protective order, you were separated from your children. Was there long periods of time that you were separated from the children, or was it you got some periodic visits, or did that gradually go down as these allegations? Because if they're false, they shouldn't be used against you. Is there any due process in family court? Is it fair? Is a playground fair for you? Well, I'm just asking, Cash, because the
Yeah.
thing is people will look
No, I
at you and
know.
say,
No,
he's a
no.
veteran. He
What?
served our country. He put his life on the line. Why can't he have access if he's out there saving and giving his life to protect these people with freedom, and the Constitution is what we're protecting? Why isn't the Constitution working for you when you come home? That's my question.
Because it's a farce. That's why. It's a farce that, number one, in the military, that we defend the Constitution. And I'm
Right.
not trying to knock my fellow brothers and sisters from the military or the veteran community at large. But the fact is that they do not teach the Constitution. There is no expectation that we know the Constitution. And in the latter parts of my career there, while stationed at Great Lakes, Illinois, I was bringing it to the commanding officer's attention there of the base. And I worked in the same building as the commanding officer of the base at Naval Station Training Command. And I brought it up. I'm like, this is the largest training command in the United States Navy, yet we don't teach the Constitution anywhere on this base. And I think that that's a problem. I think that our young sailors should know the ins and outs of the Constitution, because how in the hell are we going to defend something if we don't know anything about it? We can't. You can't defend your
Right.
rights. If a police officer does a Terry stop on you, a stop and frisk on you,
Right.
and you don't know anything about your Fourth Amendment rights, you don't know anything about your Fifth Amendment rights, you don't know anything about your First Amendment rights or your 14th Amendment rights, how in the hell are you going to defend yourself against that police officer then, or the judge later? You can't.
So
But go ahead.
what rights do you feel that people have in family court when you're falsely accused of something? Like, is it completely taken out? Because I want to say this and ask this question because it has got so bad that, I actually reached out to you. I've been in the advocacy program for a long time with the largest platforms here in the nation. But I came to find out that there's a lot of parents, including you and Jason D'Souza, where he has a permanent restraining order, that it just doesn't make sense to us. How is it in the best interest of the children to take their identity, strip them of their rights to their other parent? How is it in the best interest? And what is the original problem with that temporary order that led to this right now?
Well, number one is that, again, even if it's thrown out, because it's now a part of the public record, they can go back and re-reference that at any point in time. And if you've not had any experience with family law attorneys, they will literally stand in that courtroom and throw as much garbage at the wall as what they can humanly throw to
Right.
see what sticks. Okay, they operate off of low evidence standards, typically at preponderance. That is the evidentiary standard with which judges make rulings to determine, should you see your kids half the time. Should you see your kids every other weekend, 20% of the year, whatever. They're using a very low evidence standard with which to make those decisions. And so we as a people, number one, need to understand when you go into that courtroom and you think that your rights are going to be protected, or, oh, I'm a good dad, I'm a good mom, I work, I'm not addicted to drugs, I pay my taxes, I don't have a criminal record, all of these things that you believe will substantiate your credibility in the eyes of the court, forget it. Forget it. If you if you really think that that's going to happen when you set foot in that court, you are delusional and you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, Cash, is I wanted to try to give an opinion from somebody who's actually been through it. I don't want to say this word in the wrong way, but you suffered beyond what some of these fathers have. And I have a lot of fathers that are new to this, and they're just now getting into it. And they told me, I'm going to get a lawyer for $5,000, $10,000 just all in. And I have to break the news to them that there's no such thing as a final order. Can you tell me from your opinion, because you've been in this longer than me, I mean, what is final in this family court?
Your death. That's it. Your death as the parent, as the chosen target, your death is the only final judgment that can be entered in the family court. And I don't say that tongue in cheek. I say that quite literally, because these people, these courts, these attorneys, these leech agencies, these cottage industries of psychologists, psychiatrists, guardian ad litems, counselors, on and on and on, this endless array of people that you have to jump through hoops to at any point in time, even past the children's 18th birthday, they can find cause to keep dragging you back into court, and it becomes an endless cycle of legal abuse.
Is it about money or is it about the kids?
It's about control and it's about power. And if I had to guess, it's about social engineering. I'm not a great big conspiracy theorist, but it's hard to ignore the macro data that exists right now.
So almost like our children are being herded as a guinea pig of a situation to see if it works. And what I have seen myself personally is that there is no final word that's final. Now, going into this, they enforce a child support. Did they put you on child support at the time?
Oh, of course. Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So most fathers will agree. They went to the first hearing, a temporary hearing. They ended up on child support, right? Now, my question and my problem is this, and maybe me and you can debate this right here live, because this is what we started to talk about, that people don't want to debate it because they want to hide the darkness when it comes to real topics. But there's three branches of government, correct? You have judicial, you have executive, and what's the other one?
Legislative.
Now, if a legislative branch makes a law, they can't intertwine, can they? Or are they allowed to intertwine?
There's supposed to be separations of power.
Right. Can you give us a little understanding of the separation of power? Because I'm going to tell you what I see wrong with this, but give me an idea of an example of how they're violating the separation of power in your opinion.
Well, in my opinion, judges and attorneys in family law courts, number one, they're legislating from the bench. So they are effectively writing their own laws from the bench.
Right.
They ignore case precedents all the way up from the U.S. Supreme Court case all the way down to their lower circuit or district courts within their respective districts. They will ignore those laws and those statutes and make a ruling or a finding on the bench that in no way, shape, or form aligns with their state statutes, the state constitution, or the U.S. Constitution. So, and in that effect, they're legislating from the bench. So let's take that a step further. So now the judge, who is a part of the judicial branch, is practicing law writing from the bench, making their own case precedents, if you will. And so now they're in effect operating from two branches of government. And then if that's not enough, they'll abuse their contempt powers of the court and we're going to totally skip the executive branch. We're going to skip over a state's attorney's office. We will skip formal charges or the right to a speedy trial, and we will go right to guilty and throwing you into a debtor's prison that was outlawed, I don't know, well over 100 years ago.
Let me ask you one more question on this, going deeper into how I agree with you that they're violating their powers. Who makes the law when it comes to child support, and who's enforcing? Is it the same government? Is it the same branch? Is the family court making a law, and are they the ones enforcing the law?
Well, it comes from their recommendations as well as other recommendations from special interest groups. And I spoke just briefly some of those special interest groups at the beginning of your show here. And we need to know that the National Organization for Women, the League of Women Voters, large domestic violence groups across the United States, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of power, they have a lot of influence, and oftentimes they are drafting the laws just like what ALEC will do. And
Yeah.
and ALEC is a conglomerate of like Fortune 500 companies that will draft their own laws in these private meetings where they bring in politicians to schmooze them over with drink and food and rubbing elbows and a good weekend, where you and I, you
Right.
know, the common man and woman, have no
Right.
access to these types of legislators in these types of settings.
And I'll touch on that, Cash. I'll touch on ALEC a little bit. ALEC is an organization. We're not going to go into the whole thing, the American Legislative. I'm not going to promote them. But the thing is that they have incentivized privatizing prisons. So it's a for-profit business. Now, when I say privatizing prisons, they're allowing private companies to come in there and make money off, whether it's the phone calls or the commissaries or the visitations. And what they're doing is making a living. So they have to keep their beds full. I believe that it's coming from keeping our kids in the system. And if they can get them, the earliest they can get these kids in the system is through family court. And that's what I've seen from my opinion. Now, here's the biggest thing about our show. We've talked about this, and the rest of the people wants to know. You have been awarded medal after medal, and you have served our country. How did you end up in jail when you're just fighting for your children? Because it was such a crazy bail. It's such a crazy story that it's hard for people to understand how and why did this happen?
Well, so in 2018, I'll just rewind just a little bit. In 2018, while I was running for office,
Yeah.
it was March of 2018, I had conducted a proper removal of my federal court, of my case from the 19th Judicial Circuit into federal court. Now, federal court does not hear family law cases typically. They won't make any ruling as it pertains to custody and things of that nature. But that's not what I was asking the federal court of Northern Illinois to rule upon. I was asking them to rule upon the constitutional merits of some of their state statutes, as well as I believe that it's unconstitutional for them to bar a petitioner from bringing their case before the federal court, because they say that you choose the jurisdiction in which your divorce or custody case went in. And so the federal court will say, well, as a petitioner, because I filed for divorce, and so the federal court says, well, we're not going to take your case because you're the petitioner and you decided the court that it was going to be heard in. Well, how did I? I'm sorry. Does anybody else know of any federal courts that are hearing custody cases today or tomorrow? Or I'm sorry, during the work week? No, we're funneled into one place. What are you talking about? I chose my jurisdiction. I didn't choose my jurisdiction. My ex-wife remained in Illinois with our 2 children, and you assumed jurisdiction over something that you truly have no jurisdiction over. Only God truly has jurisdiction over this. The only jurisdiction you have is to defend our constitutional rights as parents.
Right. And let's go into that a little bit. Let's go into this jurisdiction. When the court says that somebody files this complaint, right? Let's say the mother of the year over here filed her complaint. You didn't even have a choice whether you wanted to participate or not. And the thing is, you should be considered a fit, able, willing father before you're presumed guilty. How did it go from innocent till proven guilty? And let's talk about due process. How is your due process violated? And can you kind of tell us, because I don't see where you had the right to be innocent till proven guilty if you're already guilty and you sitting here trying to prove yourself innocent.
Well, then that's really what it amounts to. And I'll just kind of close. So on this due process element, this is a really important part, okay? While my case was removed to federal court in March of 2018,
Right.
the circuit court has zero jurisdiction. They don't have any jurisdiction whatsoever so long as the case is sitting in federal court. Now, once the federal court remands it or sends it back to the lower court, to the circuit court, then they can reassume jurisdiction, reassume what they were doing. But while my case was properly removed into federal court and it was accepted by the federal court, and I filed the notice with the circuit court, the judge in the case ordered the circuit clerk to reopen the case. They held an ex parte hearing, again, without me present, in March 12th, 2018. And Judge Salvi illegally severed contact with my daughter. And I say illegally because he had no jurisdiction with which to make such a substantial ruling, especially in an ex parte hearing when I was self-represented, I was pro se
Right.
while running for governor. Now, you want to talk about election interference? Try having your child or your children withheld while you're running for office,
Right.
while they're trying to actively pressure you
Right.
to drop out of the race. Because why? Because they know that you exercising your First Amendment right, talking about what they're doing behind these
Right.
closed doors, that is the
So
greatest threat to that
your
system.
your children were basically held hostage to a system, and the ransom was the child support and compliance. And when you stood up for yourself, what happened when you stood up for yourself and you said, hey, listen, because it's okay to be emotional. It's okay. A lot of people tell us to calm it down and chill it out. I mean, you had a moment where you said, hey, enough is enough. What happened? And where did it happen at in that courtroom? And what went south that ended up we taking a decorated military veteran and we're just going to put him in jail and say he's a criminal? And you're just being realistically emotional.
Right. Yeah. So to be frank, the election was over November of 2018. I got about 110,000 votes, which for me, I didn't care about the votes, but I was extremely happy with
Yeah.
the fact that I was able to talk about this issue in so many interviews. But as soon as that election was over, I left the state of Illinois. I moved to Arkansas, where I had intended on retiring to after my military retirement, never intended on staying in Illinois.
Right.
But I thought that maybe the distance would be beneficial for all parties. Me, the mother of my children, my two kids. I thought, you know what? I'll get some distance. I'll be able to see them on the summers. I'll still get phone calls. No.
Right.
They completely severed contact with my daughter in March of 2018. The week after the election, Judge Salvi illegally severed contact with my son. I've had no access to my children now in 6 years for my daughter, and it'll be 6 years this November for my son, who's now aged out.
So let me ask you a question about this judge, and I'm not going to attack him. I know he's wrong for this, but I'm going to ask you a question. At what point did he decide he changed his feelings and used his personal discretion and powers to separate you from your children and basically take your character and just trash it? Because, like you said, you had votes, you have supporters, you have ran a legitimate campaign and where you are looking for better change for your community and the people of Illinois. How did it go from this one judge basically taking your declaration of your services to our country for your whole entire life and upside down trying to turn you into a criminal?
Well, it simply began at the very beginning. I mean, really, you have to go back to the beginning of the case. And the quote unquote marital settlement agreement, which is what they describe as an enforceable contract, it's not an enforceable contract if you don't agree to it. But that doesn't stop them from enforcing the contract that they threaten you on the record or threaten you off the record, that if you don't sign it, if you don't agree to these terms, we can make it worse for you, sir. And that's exactly what Judge Christopher Morrison, the first judge in my case, did. Whenever I protested and I said, I am not agreeing to this. I am not agreeing to sign over upwards of 40-50% of my income to my ex-wife making $100,000 a year. I am not agreeing to supervised visits. I am not agreeing to every other weekend whenever I come off supervised visits. I don't agree to any of this, yet I was coerced under duress to sign that contract, which I signed. I said, I'm only signing this under duress. Under duress. That is not a legally binding contract, but it does not stop them from contract upon you in the years after.
But this is how this system works is they actually place everybody under stress. There's no way you can walk into a family court and not tell me that you love your children and you're not stressed. There's not a father in this world, there's not a mother in this world, it's not a grandmother, because there's so many collateral victims of what's going on, Cash. It's not just you. You had I'm not sure if it was your mother, but you have people in your family that lost this time and will never get it back. And we have people in our family that passed away, and that was taken forever. And these children never had a chance. Now, I'm going to go a little deeper into this, Cash, and I want to ask you this. So you go to jail because you stood up for yourself and you was upset. You had a meltdown one time or whatever. How long did they put you in jail, and what was your bail?
They put me in for 2 years. Well, it was just under 2 years. I was in the Lake County Jail where my custody case was at. And I ended up sitting in the Lake County Jail for 15 months. And why was I there? Well, I made a phone call to the Lake County Courthouse on October 7th of 2021. I'm not going to repeat everything that I said, but I pled guilty to threatening two judges. The two judges, the last two judges in my custody
And,
case, and
and
but I sat in there on a $1 million bail for words. A
so
first-time
so
non-violent
your
felony offense, spoken in duress, $1 million bail.
so your bail is higher than somebody who committed second-degree murder,
Oh,
rape,
oh yeah, oh yeah.
treason. Your bail is higher. Is it that this judge had too much power?
Well, it's all of these judges have too much power. It was a charade. The entire criminal proceeding was a charade. They extradited me illegally out of Arkansas. Yes, it was done illegally. I had a right to file a writ of habeas. That was denied. I was extradited without an attorney. I had a right to have an attorney once criminal proceedings were initiated against me, which that would go back to the initial warrant, which was signed by a family law judge, mind you, in Lake County, Illinois.
And let's talk about that, Cash. Let me stop you here for a second on that. Let's talk about the habeas. Habeas corpus is deliver the body, correct? So when you say the habeas, you wanted to deliver you back home, and so you didn't have to be a victim of Illinois at the time, or what was it?
Well, that's correct. So I was physically present in the state of Arkansas. I was in my home where I'm at right now when phone records would show this. In
Right.
fact, I did a live stream from out in my yard here in Arkansas. But the state's attorney's office in Lake County, again, where I've been a prominent activist and outspoken critic of that courthouse and the government officials there. But they signed to extradite me, and the state's attorney in Lake County alleged that I was physically present in Lake County whenever I made that phone call. Now, why is that really important? This is a due process piece.
Right.
It's important because you have a right to be tried in front of a jury of your peers,
Right.
and where the crime was committed. And because the crime was electronic, committed across state lines, I was physically present in the state of Arkansas. And I would argue, which never got argued in court, that underneath the four corners theory, which essentially holds, that where you're physically present, that's where the crime was committed. So in a case like this, and in a case like my own, the federal government shared concurrent jurisdiction with the state of Arkansas, yet neither one of them pursued any charges. Them saying that I was physically present in Illinois is what they used to say that I was a felon who fled Illinois seeking asylum in the state of Arkansas. So that was how they were able to extradite me, by making, again, a false statement, a false allegation, something that is easily provable that was untrue, that I had made the phone call here from my home in Arkansas. And so they had no jurisdiction over me, but it didn't stop them from getting the extradition done. Matter of fact, the governor's office here in Arkansas, that they've never not conducted an extradition when requested by a governor of another state. And so again, just like emergency orders of protection, I found out extradition warrants, those are rubber stamped as well. And so you truly, so far as I can tell, the Constitution doesn't appear to be much better than the paper that it's printed on.
So you have been through this, and this is why I wanted to start this premiere show with you. You have not just been through this for a few years, Cash. You've actually been living this for a long time. And I say this personally myself. I see myself aging faster than I was ever because of the stress, the emotions, the financial burden, the idea of not being able to talk to my children, and those things you have actually endured. And my heart goes out to you for standing up for all of these other fathers. But you have been, with the million people parent marches, and you have been all over this country. You have been advocating for change for all of these years. And I wanted to make sure that your case doesn't go unknown, because at the end of the day, there's children that are still out there, and these are your children. Are you able to talk to them now freely, or is it because what happened in the past? Because I'm just saying, it's in God we trust. Is there forgiveness in this court, or are you forever going to have a life sentence if you go to family court and you lose? I don't want
It's
to scare you.
a life sentence. Yeah, it is. It's a life sentence. It is. It really is. And what really harms us is of course our own ignorance, our own mistaken belief about how the system works. And while we don't have any experience, those that we have this preconceived idea about what justice will or should look like, and we really set ourselves up for disappointment because we don't know what it looks like. And I would encourage all parents out there, and even high schools and middle schools. Our kids should sit in family law courts. They should sit in probate courts. They should sit in criminal courts. They should really see and know and understand how this system is designed. The best way for us to protect our children is for our children to be as well informed as what they can be. And I think that if there's a greater endeavor on all of our parts to take the time and the energy to take our own children, take your kids to the Capitol building, let them see legislation getting worked on. I believe I see Mike Whitney here, remark that we must stop complying. I believe that civil disobedience is a significant part of that, and people are afraid of civil disobedience. Why? Well, with good reason. They make examples out of people like me. They'll take you, and because you're outspoken, I've talked to so many advocates out there, so many just people that maybe they're not even an advocate, they're just a father or a mother who are afraid to exercise their First Amendment right because they're afraid that the courts and the judges will use it against them and withhold their children. That in itself is a mark of tyranny. It is clearly indicative of a tyrannical system that is meant on oppressing you, the mother or the father, the American person. I don't care what political leaning you are, what you identify as. None of that makes any difference to me. What's really important to me is that you should be able to exercise your rights to speak out and go, hey, this is wrong and I don't agree. This is why I don't agree. I believe you guys broke the law. This is what the law says. If they're going to hold me as a pro se litigant to the same standard as a practicing attorney, well then fine. Yeah, I can read black and white. I can read here that it says that you need a finding of endangerment or unfitness, that there must be something more substantial before the state interferes with the parent-child relationship than just an allegation. That does not substantiate, because look, listen to me. I want people to know this. No matter what anybody says to you, because I know there's a lot of people out there struggling with this, where people look at you and they go, oh, well, you don't get any phone calls with your kids. There must be a reason. Or you don't get any access to your children. There must be a reason that you're not telling us. No, I'm telling you all of the reasons. They just happen to not align with what most of society has been brainwashed into believing about this quote unquote deadbeat dad problem. It's not an issue of deadbeat dads. We have a system that is designed and orchestrated to beat dads down until they can't get up anymore. We have a system in place that beats parents down until they cannot fight back, until they have sucked the life out of them. And that's something that I take great interest in, is trying to inspire others to stand up for themselves, to stand up for others. And you know what? If you need to use some four-letter adjectives to describe what they're doing, I'm personally not offended by that. I'm personally more offended that people sit silent and they sit complicit as the state reaps its oppression and its tyranny upon innocent, unsuspecting people. It offends me more as a veteran that you don't exercise your First Amendment right to freedom of speech, freedom of the press, because you are the press. You don't need to go to Purdue or Harvard or Yale and get a degree in journalism to be the press. What you're doing right now is freedom of the press. What you and I are doing right now is freedom of the press and freedom of speech.
Yes.
And people, more of us need to do this right here.
Amen. And Cash, we had this conversation earlier, and I'm going to be passionate about this because you had publicly asked someone to debate you. And I thought that was great, I would love to see this conversation between you and that individual, right? I wanted to see it. So I did comment on it, and then somebody came and attacked me because I thought that this is a great way to solve our problem by debating about it, speaking about it, and coming with an open discussion. But it seemed what I saw on your page was that the other individual came out and attacked you and said that you're not good enough to debate, and they're not going to talk about it. So to me, there was no light shed on it. This person doesn't want any light shed. And what we need is transparency in family court when it comes to our families, when it comes to our laws. It should be black and white. There shouldn't be so much gray when it comes to family court. What they're operating in my opinion, is a lot of fraudulent premises and basically violation of our due process and constitution. And who better than somebody who served our country and was willing to give their life to defend a piece of paper that when you come home, this is what you went and put your life on the line. There's no better person in this country that can speak about this. And if it's me or whoever it is, we're not going to let Cash Jackson's name be disappearing, because when I read and see your profile, it says erased. You're not erased from my mind. There's not a night that goes by that I don't think about Cash Jackson and his children, because each and every day that they're separated from him, it is not in the best interest. I can't support this system. I can't sit here and not have this journalistic broadcasting. I can't have this not be able to promote people like Anthony Prosay, dads, Anthony Cancel, who is out there giving resources to people that need this, whether it's Zach Markin, Alicia Blaylock. These people are out here trying to share information because they don't want to see somebody else's child be affected by this system that's so corrupt, so broken, that I called you crying and I said, listen, I'm tired, I'm broken, and I can't give up. I'm running out of resources. They're killing my business. They're killing my sleep. I'm aging fast. I'm losing relationships, because if they don't stand with me, then get away from me. I've got to the point where I'm so sick of everybody. Unless you stand with me for my child, I look at you as you're against my child.
Right.
And then I look like I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. What I
Right.
am is I'm tired. I'm a
Right.
beat down daddy who, if you look at it, those guys that walked away early, they didn't suffer as much as we did. They might have been called a deadbeat, but the people that stood up and fight, those are the ones that are beaten. Those are the ones that make an example. I ran out of money for legal fees. I had to represent myself pro se. 14 hours that I cross-examined somebody, and they were trying to rush me. I said, hey, man, listen, I want my time. You came with an accusation. Now let me examine this witness, whether it's 15 hours or 2 days.
Right.
I have every right to defend myself. So
Right.
when I talk to you, I actually make it through some of my days thinking about Cash Jackson. To me, is an American hero, and I want your story and Jason D'Souza and a few other fathers like John Mass to always be heard and known that there was some severe wrongs done by this court, and it shouldn't take so many. It only should take one, because how many laws have changed when one thing happened?
Right.
But we have this happening every single day in every single city and every single country in the world. What do you think, Cash, that we can do as a community, as advocates? What can we do to help make change?
You got to get out from behind the computer and the phone, number one. You have to get out and engage people on a personal, individual level, and you got to be a little bit vulnerable. You have to be willing to share some of that. And yeah, sometimes you got to eat crow. You have to eat that. Yeah, right. I wasn't a perfect person. Yeah, I reckon I wasn't a saint. Neither were you. Neither is any other person sitting out there trying to judge those of us in this circumstance. The fact of the matter is that no new laws are going to help us or assist us, because the laws that are in place, they don't follow to begin with. They're going to choose to follow whatever law they want. They're going to manipulate said law to fit their agenda. And with it, to do that, we are living inside a system where our very contribution, by giving them our time, giving them our energy, we are contributing to them with this mindset that they have jurisdiction over us and our children when they don't. I believe that there should be a nationwide boycott from fathers on child support. I believe fathers across this country, there should be a national boycott to not pay child support. Say, I'll be there. I'll support my children half the time. I'll pay for half the cost while they're with me. But if you want to allow them to be with me, then you assume all of the costs. You assume all of the financial burden. You assume all of that stress, because if you want full custody in effect is a severance of my parental rights without the same regard, due process, or evidence standards. And so, no, I don't agree with it. We need strong civil disobedience. And I believe that there should be organization between organized labor, between men and women in this movement who work across all fields across this country that are being impacted. We could crush the system and shut them down, because we have the technology, we have the organization, we have the connectedness. All we need to do is be able to learn to set our divisiveness aside and our differences aside, find that middle ground, and find out, how do we lean on them? Well, to lean on them, you need to starve them of what they want. And what they want is money, power, and control. And you have to deprive them of all of that to starve that behemoth called government.
You know, Cash, this is something that's sad that I had to teach some of my younger employees at the shop the other day. They're, a couple of these guys are 16 and 17. And I had to tell them, just don't have a baby. If you want to live a good, prosperous life, and they're young and they want to make a lot of money. And I had to tell them, I said, don't have a baby. Don't even if you're married, you can't right now. I tell them to wait till they're 35 or 40 because they're not ready for it. If they end up having a baby, if this girl changes her heart, the relationship ends. His whole life can become in
Yeah.
shambles. Because I told you from the beginning of the show, you're an American hero. I was a legend as a DJ all over the world. I went on 6 reality TV shows. I could have continued my career making thousands of dollars a day jumping around on a stage. But right now, if I even attempt to go live the life that I was, I will have no rights to my child. So I had to change my whole life. My advice to young kids is don't have babies, and you can't right now because the court system is basically going to take your child. It's not that I don't want to have other kids having kids, but I don't want to see kids turn into men like me that are battling for their own peace of mind. I thought I lived in a country where freedom was free. I thought I lived in a country where freedom was going to be given to us and protected by people like you that protected it. But then when I look up and I see that you guys are being done wrong, I know that we're the next victim. Our children are the next victims. Our next generation hasn't even seen because they're growing. We're at an $86 billion industry they're making off of this. 86 billion. It makes more money than almost every industry in the world. And it's almost unstoppable until, like you said, people stop complying. And I mean, somebody's gonna kill me for it, but at the end of the day, we got to stop at some point and make people have accountability for what they're doing.
Yep.
You know,
Well,
let me go one more on this, right, Cash?
go ahead.
The thing is the guardian ad litems, these judges, they sit behind this bull crap called immunity.
Yep.
So they make it and get it wrong. This kid has committed suicide over here. This kid has went to jail in the mother's hands or the father's hands when it was given one custody to the other parent. They got it wrong, but they'll never admit it and they hide behind immunity. This is crazy. If you get it wrong, I don't understand how these agents of the court who are employed, because if you say guardian ad litem is going to be employed, she's employed. She's an agent of the court. She should
Right.
have the same. There's no immunity. You're employed. You're an employee. Employer. It's a business. So
Yep.
my thing is these guardian ad litems, these custody values. There's so many other agents of the courtroom that are hiding behind immunity. What and where and how can we end up stopping that?
Transparency. Put those cameras in there. Get those cameras in there. Look,
Right.
be bold. Look, be bold. If you want change, you better be bold. Because if you think change is going to come around while you sit around and complain on social media, that's not going to happen.
No.
But if you want to take and put on some recording equipment on yourself and go ahead and become your own private journalist, your own independent journalist, you have a constitutional right to do that. If you believe that a crime is being committed inside these courthouses, inside these government agencies and offices, and even the private ones like Maximus, I've seen somebody mention them earlier, a private child support collection agency, the credit card companies, Visa, and the rest of them, they're in on this too, because it is a gigantic behemoth, and we need more people that have the stones and the brass tacks to put on some audio recording equipment, some video recording equipment, and go into the courtrooms and just catch what they're doing. Catch what they're doing right there. There is so much ammunition. You don't even have to dig. Just grab you some McDonald's or a cup of coffee, go down to your local courthouse, hang out in there for a day, become a journalist, be a journalist for a day, get you a little spy pen camera or glasses, whatever you need, and go in there and just watch the show. And when you're done watching the show, you decide on whether or not the people should see or hear.
You did it.
Decide.
You put a bullseye on this show tonight for what I wanted to target was that we all have to start witnessing this for each other. There's groups of auditors that go in there and videotape and watch this.
Yeah.
If there's a larger number of people auditing these courts, and if you have 13 witnesses, they can't say where that picture and that video came from. But when you see wrong and you blow the whistle, you become a target. I myself have blew the whistle on law enforcement that have been doing corruption in my case with fraudulent documents. And here I am. Last week, my Facebook was hacked. My Gmail was hacked. My bank accounts were hacked. People think that it's a joke, but let me tell you, me standing on this platform has made me a target. Right. I told you earlier, Cash, I can't share a picture of my son no more because they saying I'm using this picture, blah, blah, blah. This is a non-monetized page, make it be known that I'm not profiting off any of this. I share my child because I love my child. I'm blocked from the other parties. I'm not going to disparage them because they'll come after this video too. But you know what? Those videos and pictures of my son are shared over there. If I share those same pictures, I'll go to jail using the powers of contempt.
Yep.
I'll go to jail. I'll lose my kid. I'll lose everything just for standing up and being a father. So even this platform right here is under attack. And I told you, even if I lose, I will never say I lost. Who lost was my child. Who's
Right.
losing is our children. Who's losing is our communities,
Right.
because we want productive citizens. We're not making them.
Right.
We're making kids that are fatherless. We're making kids that are motherless. We're making kids that are grown up confused on why this other half of me is such a bad person, and they have no clue because they were programmed. They were alienated. They were influenced by people, agents of the court, other family members who just wanted to X out somebody that's good like you, who actually served the country, who was dedicated to defending the Constitution, and then came and became a victim of the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, I 100% applaud you for continuing to exercise your First Amendment right on this platform. And I will emphatically say that them doing that is a violation of a 14th Amendment equal protection right. She has a First Amendment right as a mother to post photos or videos of your guys' child. You possess the same First Amendment right to utilize social media or some other platform if you so choose, because you're a father. You are presumed to be fit. The presumption is a fitness. The presumption is not that you're a piece of crap. The presumption is that you have a constitutional right that should be protected. That constitutional right should be protected by the court. You have a natural right that was not given by government. That natural right was not granted by the Constitution, because the Constitution does not grant us or give us rights. The rights are inherent of being a being on this planet called, Earth. You have that right when you bring a child into the world until you demonstrate
right.
Otherwise, and the court must have some form of a finding of unfitness or endangerment before they begin encroaching upon these rights. But they are not doing that. They're bypassing everything to create a circumstance and a situation in which it's going to bankrupt both parties. So they're going to conduct as much wealth redistribution as humanly possible from private parties that are in a civil proceeding against one another, mind you, not the state. Yet it will be the state that reaps the benefits and the rewards of the conflict that they will ensure that they stoke through that litigation. And you're going to get caught up in that, and they will drain your resources. They will drain your family's resources. You will go to every length of the earth to fight for your child, max out credit cards, take out loans, sell off everything that you worked for, all that cool guy gear, your truck, your house, your jet skis, your boat, your guns, all that shit. Count it goodbye. And hey, and guess what? We don't mind parting with material things. That's not an issue. We can regain material things. We have an issue in our anger and our emotion that we convey. It is a righteous anger. That righteous anger is born out of pain. You cannot crack me across my knee with a bat and then decry me for the manner in which I express myself back at you for hurting me when I didn't ask for that. If you hit my children, I have the right to defend my children. And when you interfere with my children's lives, you destroy their childhood and their livelihood. You are striking my children over and over again. You're striking my family, and you are striking the face of the men and women who served and died for this country. And I frankly cannot sit around and be quiet about that. And yeah, I'm going to use a lot of adjectives that turn a lot of people off, but I'm sorry. That's just who I am.
No, listen, Cash, you never have to say sorry on this show. And I tell my son to never say sorry. I let him apologize when he does wrongs, but we're not sorry people. I'm going to tell you right now, your language doesn't have anything to do with your ability to be a parent. Let me tell you, my father can't even speak English good, but that doesn't mean he can't take care of my child and feed him and love him. What we're seeing is a nation, and the U.S. is leading it and dehumanizing us as men, as women, and people that have served our country. They're gearing these kids away from joining the military. They're gearing these kids away from serving our country. They're serving because most of us are becoming victims. And if you look at it, most of these cases involve with somebody on the opposite side in government. It's either law enforcement, it's an agent, they're all related. Somebody's related. So if you'll take a look, and I was at TFRM for a year, I'll tell you what, at least 50% of the cases that I saw with the mom running off with the baby, there was another police officer, there was a government agent, there was a lawyer, an attorney, and this is what I saw. It was basically somebody giving money and gifts to a woman, and that woman in turn giving her body, and these kids are collateral damages of that so-called, I'm gonna say the word because they're gonna get mad at me, but it's prostitute something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
It's,
some,
if
yeah.
I can say it on the show, I guess prostitution, because what they're doing is basically giving more access to boyfriends, men, random men. A dude who wants to be a stepdaddy can see these kids more than people like you who are the biological father, who are fit, able, and willing. And if there was a time that somebody wasn't, why aren't we rehabilitating them?
Right.
Why aren't we going in that direction? It's just, and I'm so grateful that you came on the show, Cash. I know we only got about 10 more minutes, but is there anything that you would like to say to your children one day? If they're watching this right now one day, is there anything that you would say to them?
Oh goodness, man. I guess I've said most everything over these last 10 years. You know, I've reached out more times than I care to mention. And I guess that if I were to speak directly with my children right now, you know, all I would say is that I love you and I'll never stop fighting for you. And it's as simple as that. That is my obligation, my moral obligation as a father to my children is to ensure that I fight to leave a country better than I found it. And I'm trying to do that to the best of my ability. And I pray that we're successful in that. You know, that our children inherit a much better country than we inherited from our parents, and that we're able to use the course of this. I want my kids to be happy and healthy. It looks like, and God, you know, it's for me to have all of my children together. It's been years that I've got to hug my kids, and it's not easy. It's not easy to get up and keep going, you know? But we have to. That's a requirement. You have to. When you're a parent, you have to get up.
Right.
You have to keep going. You have to keep fighting. And I try to set that. And I know that they've been alienated. I know that they're confused on things, and I know that they harbor some ill will towards me. But again, you know, I was an alienated child. You know, I grew up without my mom, without my dad. I've lived this on both ends of the spectrum. I never wanted my kids to grow up without their dad or their mom. I never wanted that for them because I knew how hard and difficult that was for me. I fought to prevent that. To that end, I was unsuccessful. But God has a greater plan in all things, that I believe.
Amen. And so, and Cash, hopefully we can bring you back on the show. We're going to share a little bit of Cash's information with you guys and how you can support Cash Jackson right here at Amuls Vision. Cash, I just want to say thank you so much for being the first and premier. I know that you're very well known and people like to talk to you and take your time, but we thank you here, the whole team at Amuls Vision and everybody that has been supporting us and myself as an advocate. I just really thank you from the bottom of my heart to give us your voice, and that we just want to be a microphone for people like you and fathers that are alienated, children that are growing up alienated. We want them to understand what parental alienation is, because even after they're 18, Cash, you know this, we've talked about this, it doesn't end at 18. When people say, I can't wait till my son or daughter turns 18, that's not the end, is it?
No, no, it is not. No, you still have a long journey ahead of you. You sure do.
So
So,
So we're going to talk about that in another show. It's called Post Parental Alienation. I don't know who put this cat face on me, but thank you so much, Cash, for joining us on the show. I just thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts here at Amuls Vision, where we're going to try to end parental alienation. We're going to try to enter a bill with Robert Garza and a few other states called Senate Bill 718, Time Taken, Time Back. We're going to continue fighting for family court reform and making parental alienation a crime. Uh, we want our children to be able to grow up without being molested. And when I say molested, touched in a wrong way, whether it's psychologically, emotionally, or physically. I don't just mean
right,
sexually. I mean,
right.
I don't want our children to be tampered with and hurt and instill with hate. So let's just continue to pray. Cash, thank you so much for coming on. Can we expect to see you again sometime?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. Anytime, man. And I'd love for you to do a show on my late Ted Bush. That is and like him, and I would show, dedicated to Ted, because that's the least we can do for a man that really died fighting for his kids. And
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about John Mass and a couple other ones. I have reached out to Eric Carroll and a couple other people. We're going to get some big names. Robert Garza's coming on. Anthony Cancell's coming on, Cash. We have some big names. T.W. Matthew Phillips is going to come on. We have some good guests that came, and they've been around, but I'm going to bring them on, and hopefully we can use this platform to help other fathers. We're going to prevent parental alienation. We're going to stop it. We're going to hopefully make a change by entering in this arena and not being alone. So all the fathers out there, y'all are not alone. Thank you, Cash, for joining us, and we're going to talk to you soon, brother.
thank you, man. Y'all have a great night.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
Good night.
That was awesome. Thank you, Cash Jackson, for joining us. Man, I know we went over a little bit, but that's okay here at Moles Vision. We're not going to be holding it hostage to going over. I think Cash is an American hero. So if you mention his name, I would hashtag American hero Cash Jackson. He is an American hero. He served our country, and this Constitution is supposed to defend him when he gets home. So hats off. My heart goes out to Cash Jackson. Thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, men, if you guys are in this, women, if you're in this, you guys can go to Pro Say Dads. It's open to women too. If you're litigating by yourself and you are overwhelmed with stress, I recommend that y'all go check out Anthony Cancel over there at Pro Say Dads. Like the page, add it, and then go check them out. You can also go check out Alicia Blaylock, Kids Deserve Dads with Zach Martin, Non-Custodial Live. You can check out so many. Here at Amuls Vision, we support other advocacies, whether it's American Families for Equal Shared Parenting over there, whether it's TFRM, the Father's Rights Movement, we support them. We're not against anybody. We're just here to help support these kids. We're here to be a voice for the people who can't speak. Our platform is your platform. It's not just ours. Thank you, Richard Cross down here, who's been moderating the show. He's going to be live, so you guys can get a visual on who Richard Cross is and his story. We're going to talk about Arizona. We're going to talk about Texas. We're going to talk about some laws and things that we're making changes in South Carolina. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff coming up, but it's going to happen each and every Wednesday night. Thank everybody for joining us. And one thing that we're always going to do on this show is we're never going to remove God from this show. So we are going to pray before we exit. So if you don't want to pray with us, that's okay. We respect all religions. We respect whatever religion or faith you have. We know that's a big part of your life. I am a follower of Jesus Christ, and I believe that God will bring this healing. It doesn't look so great right now, but I know that he has a plan, and he's going to open up those gates, and he's going to extend his arm out to you guys. So men, women, grandmothers, grandfathers, whoever's been watching, listen, we love you. You're not forgotten. There's no way that Amul P, Coach Amul P, is going to forget you. Each and every week, we're going to come on here on Wednesday at 9 p.m. I'm going to help you with your diet. I'm going to help you with your mental. I'm going to help you with your legal. I'm going to help you with every part of this process so that way you can survive family court. If there's any resources that you have, you guys can inbox us. We'd like to share them with our viewers and our followers. What we need is for you guys to help us tonight. Share this page to your friends and family. There's 3 dots. You just hit the invite your friends to like this page. And like I said, this is your platform. I'm just a host. I'm just a coach. And I'm here to moderate this show just as like Richard's been doing all night. So thank you, Richard. Thank you, everybody out there who's been viewing and watching. Like I said, Cash Jackson, thank you so much for allowing us to have that moment. And we'll bring him on soon again. So let's get our prayer. I know we went over it, so let's get our prayer started. Lord, thank you so much for bringing healing to us in this room together. Lord, thank you so much for people like Cash Jackson, American heroes, who have put their life on the line. Lord, we just pray that you touch his children. Lord, we pray that you touch his soul and you continue to comfort him in this time of separation. Lord, we pray that you reunite those children with understanding of love and forgiveness as they have been alienated. Lord, we just pray that you touch each and every child, each and every parent, every judge, every lawyer, that they may see that our country needs a nation full of children that have both parents and equal shared parenting rights. Lord, we just pray each and every little girl and every little boy out there can see and have a relationship with both parents. Lord, thank you so much for tonight, this platform, and your love and your words. Amen. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Amul P, Coach Amul P, right here at Amul's Vision. We hope to see you Wednesday night at 9 p.m. live with Richard Cross. So I will be your host, co-hosted by Richard Cross and the team of moderators at Amuls Vision. We're going to bring you so much of the latest topic news and things that are going to help you get through your family court case. You're not alone. We love you. We love your children, and you're not forgotten. Thank you for joining us right here at Amuls Vision. We'll see you Wednesday night. I'm Amul P. We're checking out. Thank you, and have a great night.